Governor Greg Abbott says he's stepping up enforcement at the border, claiming there's a surge of migrants being brought across by drug cartels.
The cartels, they are involved in every single one of these border crossings that we see.
Critics say this is political rhetoric by Abbott. They say the majority of people coming across are women and children fleeing violence in Central America, not cartel members. DHS officials say in February, 9,000 unaccompanied children and teens crossed into the U.S.
It's all the big lie repeated over and over again in order to justify getting elected as in an election year. It's all just publicity stunts.
Abbott says he is sending in hundreds of National Guard members to help Border Patrol agents stop the flow of migrants. The governor claims they are overwhelming local residents.
You got business owners, you got homeowners whose lives are being completely disrupted. And the Biden administration does not care about those ranchers.
Domingo Garcia, national president of LULAC, says there is no crisis at the border, that what people are seeing are thousands of refugees stuck in tents waiting months for immigration hearings. Refugees like this family with small children waiting for 8 months.
He's been governor over 8 years, and he has yet to deal on a positive way about how to deal with the immigration issue.
Abbott also claims there need to be more detention facilities and has a stern warning for migrants.
And Texas is sending a message to any caravan and to any cartel member. We're ready.
They use immigrants as political piñatas to get votes.
In Dallas, I'm Rebecca Lopez.